Anatomical terms make up the basic language of medicine. They seem really easy to learn at first, but if you're confused about the slightest thing, it can affect your ability to learn more complicated concepts in the future. So if you feel that you easily forget certain anatomical terms or that you feel confused by something, this video will go over all of the important terms concisely and simply, and in a way that is easy to remember so that you can instantly recall them in the future. So this is basically an outline. First we'll go over types of anatomy, then we'll go over positions and what they're called in terms of anatomy, then relationships in anatomy, and fourth we'll go over anatomical terms for regions of the limb. First, we'll go over the different types of anatomy. So one type of anatomy is based on systems, and the terminology is pretty self-explanatory. So the suffix ology stands for the study of, and then the prefix, you can pretty much tell what it's talking about based on the prefix. So osteology, study of bones, so that would be the skeletal system. Myology, study of the muscles, the muscular system, because myo stands for muscles. The articular system is not as common knowledge as, let's say, the skeletal or the muscular system. So that refers to joints, and arthro is the prefix for that. Angiology, angio is a vascular system, blood vessels. Neurology, sphygmology is the study of systems, like the ones highlighted here. The locomotor systemic anatomy basically means anything that involves movement. So we have the study of bones, the study of joints, the study of muscles. And then we have regional anatomy, so just focusing on the head or the neck. Developmental anatomy, so embryology, how babies develop from the fetus to after they're born. And then clinical anatomy means applying knowledge of anatomy to solve clinical problems. So for example, we know the carpal tunnel contains the median nerve. So if you're having symptoms of carpal tunnel syndrome, like then you know that the median nerve is the issue, basically. Now we'll go over anatomical terms in terms of position. So erect means stand up, recumbent means lying down, lateral recumbent, so lateral means side, so lying sideways is lateral recumbent. So prone and supine, those are, I always used to confuse them. So the way I remember it is prone rhymes with alone, and when you have to get alone, sometimes you can feel down about having to get alone. So prone means lying down, face down. And then supine, you think of a bowl of soup, and when you have a bowl of soup, it can only face up because otherwise you'll spill the soup. So supine means lying face down. And then the lithotomy position is basically when you're supine, so when you're lying face up with your hips and knees fully flexed. So when women go to the OB-GYN or to the family medicine doctor, and they have to lie back with their legs in stirrups, and that is basically the lithotomy position. Now let's talk about anatomical terms in terms of relation. So basically, let's say I have a hand and I want to know where the hand is located in relation to my thigh. So the hand would be lateral to the thigh. So that's basically how anatomical terms are used in this case. So medial means towards the midline. So in the example I was using before, if we have a thigh and we have a hand, the thigh would be medial to the hand because it's closer to the middle than the hand. Lateral means away from the midline. Anterior and ventral means the front. So that would be like my nose is anterior to the back of my scalp, basically. So it took me a while I kept forgetting what ventral stood for just because it sounds so generic. So the way I like to think of it is vent for ventral. So a vent kind of emits air forward. So that makes me think front for ventral. Then posterior or dorsal means to the back. So when you think of dorsal, I think of a dolphin and they have a dorsal fin. And so dorsal means posterior because dolphins have a dorsal fin. Superior means towards the head and inferior means towards the foot. Superficial is towards the skin, while deep means towards inner organs. When we have two different parts of a limb, so let's say fingers versus shoulders, the anatomical terms are very useful to determine their relationship. So proximal, for example, means near the trunk. So when you think of proximal, I think of proximity. I think that something is close. So that's how I think of near the trunk. And when I think of distal, I think of the word distance, so far away from the trunk. So the fingers are distal to the shoulder because they're farther away from the trunk than the shoulder is, while the shoulder is proximal to the fingers. So the radial can refer to the lateral region of the upper limb. Ulnar refers to the medial border of the upper limb. Tibial, medial border of lower limb. Fibular, lateral border of the lower limb. They're called these because of the position of the bones. And I have a mnemonic to remember it because I would often forget in the past. So my mnemonic is "You are too fast." U is the medial upper limb, so that is ulnar. R is lateral upper limb, so that is radial. T is medial lower limb, so that is medial. And F is is lateral lower limb, so fibular. So you are too fast. The flexor surface is basically the surface. So the way I think about it is when you flex your biceps, the anterior part of your upper limb, that's what is doing the work. So if you flex your biceps, the anterior part is doing the work. But when you're flexing your lower limb, like for example, when you move your heel up towards your butt, that's flexing your lower limb, the posterior part is in use. So that's why it can be confusing, but it's easy to explain when you use the example of flexing yourself. So the extensor surface works with that same kind of logic. Palmar refers to the palm of the hand, and plantar refers to the sole of the foot. The back of the hand is called the dorsal part of the hand, while the top of the foot, the opposite of the sole of the foot, is called the dorsal part of the foot. So other important terms, invagination means going inside, while evagination means protruding out. Unilateral means one-sided. So if I have unilateral pain, that means I only have pain on one side of my body. Bilateral means both sides. So if both my hands are shaking, I have that bilateral shaking of my hands. Now the last two terms, ipsilateral and contralateral, are used when you have two conditions and they're affecting either the same side of your body or the opposite side of your body. So ipsilateral is when there are two conditions on the same side of your body, while contralateral means two conditions on opposite sides of the body. Now it's time to review. So what I'll do is read the concept out loud, and you can pause and answer the question as fast as possible. And when you want to hear the answer, just unpause. Let's start. Lacerations on the right upper limb and right lower limb. Are they contralateral or ipsilateral? Since they're both on the right side, they are ipsilateral. The study of joints. Arthrology. Lying face down. Prone. Anterior part of the upper limb. That's the flexor surface. The posterior part of the upper limb. That's the extensor surface. Lateral border of the upper limb. Using the mnemonic, you are too fast. For the upper limb, the lateral border is the radial region. Medial border of the lower limb. Once again, using the mnemonic, you are too fast. The tibial region is the medial border of the lower limb. Thenar muscles of hand are blank to the biceps. Thenar muscles of the hand are distal to the biceps. Medial border of upper limb. So using the mnemonic, you are too fast, that is the ulnar region of the upper limb. Lateral border of the lower limb, once again using the mnemonic, you are too fast, the fibular region is the lateral border of the lower limb. And that's where we'll end it today. Thank you.